Good evening. Welcome to today's Chesapeake Chats, the second session. I am Rose Young, a first Chesapeake staff member, and I'm here to talk to you about our topic tonight, which is Engineering Notebook. I'm going to be introducing the first Chesapeake Chat, which is sponsored by Newport News Shipbuilding, and we thank them for making this session possible. Just some housekeeping. We will let the speakers present, and then we will open up the discussion later on. If there's time, please feel free to put your questions in the chat along the way, and we will try to get to them all at the end. Now, today's session is Engineering Notebook, and I know that you all probably have some questions about this, and we're going to have two teams talk to us. The team 4634 Frogbots has two representatives here, and team 16537 Logic Coyotes is also represented. So we're going to start the introductions with Coach Randy, and then they're going to share some of their insights and inspiration with you, and then we'll take your questions. All right, Coach, away you go.
Hi, I'm Coach Randy Hintz with Team 16537 Logic Coyote. I am also the creator of robonotebook.com, which we will get into a little bit later on with this chat. Michael, you're muted.
Hi, I'm Michael. I am the captain for Team 16537 Logic Coyote, and our team helped with beta testing the RoboNotebook website.
Hi, I'm Tracy Gisselquist. I'm the head coach for Frogbots Team 4634.
Hi, I'm Timmy. I'm the captain of 4634 Frogbots. I was also a beta tester for the RoboNotebook and really enjoyed using it. But today I'm here to talk to you about why should you write an engineering notebook this year. If you want to throw up my slides. Why should you write an engineering notebook this year? The first thing is to remake previously designed parts. Even if you throw out the entire thing of awards just to make a notebook that will help you with hardware is really important. To remake previously designed parts and ideas. This year we made a prototype double reverse 4-bar design. Since it was a small project, we finished it fast and put it to the side till we needed it. After a while, it got disassembled for spare parts. Then, when we finally needed it to put on the robot, a rookie member was able to remake the part in a third of the time it took from just pictures and notes. Record changes in tests. Make sure to record all of your tests and results of those tests and what you changed between the tests. This will help you figure out what went wrong or what went right. These are all things that you should do, even if you don't want to go for awards. Another thing is to record previously designed parts. Last year, when looking for intake ideas, we pulled out the notebook from Relic Recovery and looked at the intake we built from there for inspiration. As you can see from these two pictures, these intakes look very similar. They do have some differences, but the main concept is the same. These are all different things that you should do with a notebook, even without the awards. You should still write this every single year. It also helps in the future when you make a design to copyright or patent the design. You need to take notes of the design, so it's good practice for the future. Last, how to take the notebook and turn it into a portfolio. We all know this new portfolio thing. We've got no idea how to do this. But we do know how to do a notebook. So how do you take a notebook and put it into the portfolio? Include content aimed at each award. You have a list of every single award out there. Connect, motivate, design, all those. So take the pages and separate the pages into different sections for each award. Most of those pages should be hardware and software, but don't forget outreach and upreach. Connect. Remember, pictures are worth 1,000 words. Make sure to include pictures of your parts, designs, and other things to help the judges visualize your robot and your team. You do have limited space, so use it wisely. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us at info@frogbots.net. And now I'll turn it over to Mrs. G, who's been volunteering as a judge for the past couple of years.
So one thing I want to point out is that the portfolio is your opportunity to try to get the judges to be your advocate, as well as the judges interview. You have a limited amount of time for the judges to be able to look at your notebook. They don't have the time to look at everything in proper detail for your entire notebook. So this year we just have the portfolio, which will be easier, but you still want to get them on your side. You want them to become your advocate to push you forward for certain awards. If you don't make that impact with the portfolio, then you're probably not going to be considered for those awards. Think about each individual award. How have I motivated people? How have I reached out and down to different teams? And then document that in your portfolio, at least one page for each award. How have you reached up to get help from the STEM community, to learn about the STEM community, even in this time of COVID? Your hardware, like Timothy said, should be a lot of your portfolio. Think about each system. Don't just pull out a page from your notebook. Oh yeah, this is an interesting page we wrote. Think instead about perhaps putting summary pages of the journey through each of your systems, so that you're giving a visual picture through words as well as CAD designs, drawings if you don't have CAD, and photos, so that the judges can get a visual picture of your design. Okay, software is also really important. Obviously, you're not going to throw all your code in there, but perhaps little snippets of your code of what's important, unique ways that you've done things. Also in English, summarize the different stuff that you've done. Don't just sit there and use all technical terms. You're going to have people looking at it at first that aren't necessarily super technical with software. But think about along the lines of, in English, what did you do? Give an order of what you did, like sort of a flow diagram, perhaps, in that. Innovate. What was innovative? Make sure to include that. Think about what was special about your robot, unique from everybody else, and include stuff about that. So I think you should basically try to aim at making your portfolio hard-hitting, as much information as you can in the short space you have, and you want to aim to make the judges your advocate. Michael.
Hi, so I'm going to give a brief overview of what you can do in the notebook to put in a task entry. So if I go into the meeting and click the plus to add a task, the window should pull up, and there are several things that I can add in for the entry. I can add in a task type. So let's say, looking at the options, there could be strategy, design, build, testing, coding, non-engineering. Let's say I'm making a design entry for a design someone came up with. And this is a randomly generated team, so let's just say Wilson is writing this. And you can task on designing it. And for a notebook, you can pick one of these ones here, and you can edit these. So let's say this is for placement. Design name, call this ball grabber or something like that. This is quick description. You can add in so you can easily find what it was. We designed something to pick up the balls. Issue. Let's say our issue for a design would be the game thing that we're trying to achieve. So this could be picking up and scoring the balls. Details, describe the design in detail. This would take a while to describe something in detail. So this is where you would put like the main bulk of the entry. But Now I'm going to show a really, really cool part about this. So for getting entries, or for getting images in the notebook, which Timmy and Mrs. G stated is very, very important. If you want to upload an image, you can pick one from your computer, and there's a choose files button here. So this will go in and it should, pull up something on my end that you guys won't necessarily be able to see. So I just pick an image and then I upload it to the website. You can see this is the image of a ball grabber mechanism thing. But this is an option. You can just go into a little brief description of what it is that you're looking at if the title does not exactly describe it enough. So we can say a scooper for the balls. You would click submit and it automatically adds that to your entry. So once you have added some details, you can add feedback from what people thought about the entry. And then you can also go into follow-up stuff of what needs to be done if the task is not complete for designing it. So if it was partially designed, you could add that in as well. And then when the entry is complete, you can click submit. And the entry is in. And now to Coach Randy to talk about more in depth of the site.
Thanks, Michael. This is a site that I developed based upon a lot of feedback from teams that we talked with, Frogbots being one of them. And I'm not sharing my screen right now. There we go. Thank you. And one of the things that the Frogbots really brought to light for us that we had not considered. Michael and I actually came from a separate team before we started Logic Coyote last year. And this idea of a notebook section is something that came straight from the Frogbots. And the idea here is to allow items or tasks to be entered as they are being done, but then to categorize them according to what is the system of the robot that is being worked on. Generally, you're going to have 5 or 6 main systems. You're going to have electronics, you're going to have the chassis, you're going to have some type of intake mechanism, you're going to have some type of output mechanism. And there might be some other, like this year, we've also got the wobble goal. And so this year, those would probably be your 5 main systems. So what this allows us to do is to put together a notebook that is categorized by system. So right now we are looking at, this was from last year's notebook. Mm-hmm. And I believe, I'm trying to scroll back, here we go. This was all tasks for what we called picking up the stones. And you can see that there's a lot of detail here. And Michael talked through some of that, how we actually had, what's the issue? What's the problem that you're trying to address? What is the details on how you came up with the design, or what you tested, or things like that, and what was the feedback? So all this is included now in the printout that you can hand to the judges. So, and with what we've got here, it is grouped together by the system of the robot, so that you can see all of your chassis entries together. You can see all of your intake entries together. And therefore, it helps a story flow a lot better, so that when the judges are looking at your notebook, they can see the story from begin to end on your intake, on your output mechanism, etc. Now, this year with the engineering portfolio, what we added was the ability to tag specific entries. So you can see, for instance, this is a tagged entry here, and this one is not. And what that has given us now, in fact, if you see, this was the full engineering notebook and it was 90 pages. This is simply the tagged entries, and this is now down to 10 pages. And it contains just those entries that are tagged, so that I'm still keeping my entire engineering notebook. Everything that Timmy said is so important. There are reasons for documentation above and beyond showing this stuff to the judges. And you need to keep your engineering notebook for all those reasons. But now we want just a limited number of pages for our portfolio, and we decide which entries to include by this tag feature. So I can come down here and I can actually click on what was the outline of a tag right there. And now this entry is tagged and it would be included the next time I printed. So that's what we've got right now on the website. And I'm currently, there was something else that Mrs. G mentioned that is also very, very important, which is summaries. So we talk about having these, 4 or 5 pages worth of entries, maybe 2 pages for each system. But it's nice if you can have a section of text that just summarizes what you want the judges to pay attention to in those 2 pages worth of entries. And that's something that I'm currently working on. It's not on the website yet. It's probably going to be out there in about 2 weeks, so that we can add summary pages, not only for the entire notebook, but then smaller summaries for each one of the individual sections as well. So I see we've got about 10 minutes left, and that's a good stopping point for me. Rose?
Yeah, so I'm not real familiar with this at all. So, and I think you've explained it really well. I'm pretty excited to take a closer look at it. I just wanted to clarify. So you said the next time you print it. So the way you presented this in the past was to take those 90 pages, whatever you were up to, and print those and take that and hand it in. Is that what I understand?
That's correct. The website will generate a PDF output upon demand.
Okay. And since you could flag certain things and group them, does that mean that your notebook was chronological within category, or the tagging, just you have to find them like looking, or was it still all chronological? Like what's the order?
Like you said, it is chronological inside each section. So this way, each system, like I said, it kind of creates a story now for here's what we did on our intake. Because if you think about how you do the meetings, one person might be working on the intake while somebody else is trying to fix the wiring on the electronics, while somebody else is doing something to tweak the output. So you've got, 3 different systems being worked on simultaneously in a meeting. And with what I've always called a classic notebook or a true chronological notebook, those 3 entries are stacked right together. And there's no story. But what a judge really enjoys being able to see is, here's what they started with their intake. Here's the first prototype. Here's what happened, when they tested the prototype. Here's the changes that they made to that prototype design, et cetera. So you get the whole story just for the intake.
So so that leads me into Mrs. G. Could you comment on that in terms of how, I don't know if you've seen this when you judged, you're comparing an output like this to different formats. Is there anything that you could say about recommending pros and cons of different formats? Certainly, I've also judged, and I've seen, handwritten, paginated, strictly chronological, and I've seen some that were generated, say, using Google Docs, and then pages printed out and signed off. And, is there, does the format matter?
So what I found as a judge was sometimes when it was just completely chronological, even especially also if you had things like outreach thrown in there, and it was just lost. It was so hard because what you have to realize is that the judges are assigned a particular category once they do the initial interviews. So you might be assigned to do the Motivate Award. Well, you're looking at people's notebooks and you're trying to find the stuff that has to do with Motivate. And maybe they mentioned it in their interview, which is why they were submitted as a possibility. But if the judge looks at your notebook and they can't find it because it's scattered throughout your notes for your hardware builds, then it's lost. The other thing, the reason why we switched to this type was it made it easier for us to go back. So you go, hey, wait, I know that there was something we did. We had this part in this particular location. It's so hard to find in the notebook where that was.
Yeah.
But you can say, oh, that was on the transfer system. You go to the transfer system notes. Now you have a much smaller set of notes to look at. So it's both easier for the judges to work with and easier for you as a team to work with. So definitely you want to separate your notebook into two halves. You've got the team section, which includes your outreach and your upreach or connect and motivate stuff. But you also have the section which is hardware and software. That's your engineering section. But within those, we separate them based on systems. So you've got all your different hardware systems, you know, that he talked about, but also software. When you sit there and start writing code having to do with picking up the wobble goal, separate that into a section separate from how did you figure out how to navigate on the field, you know, so that even can have their own sections.
Yeah, and we had, you just now saw there was the link to the Robo Notebook. We had a question about the cost of using it. Is there a, can you talk a little bit about how teams go about using this and the cost? The question is this something that you use to sustain your team? And is, you know, there is a cost to teams using it. Can you just talk about that a little bit?
Yes. At this point, we don't have a huge number of teams who are paying for it. We've got 77 teams that are using it right now, but not all of those are paid. Quite a few of those are free subscriptions based upon beta testing, etc. And believe it or not, we've got quite a few VEX teams that are using this site as well. Mm-hmm. But as far as the money at this point, it's at a break even at best at this point. There are, I do have ideas where, yes, we will be able to use some of this income to help Logic Coyote and additional teams underneath New Kent Robotics, which is the umbrella organization that Logic Coyote is under. You know, the hope is that, yes, we'll be able to have FLL teams and robotics clubs and things like that. But that's all down the road.
Okay. Well, thanks for explaining that. I think that really helps. Can we talk a little bit about what you said about the different things that you stress in the notebooks and kind of what we're looking at this year in terms of your programming, your mechanical, and your outreach? So suppose a team is trying to do that documentation on their own. And I love what you guys said about telling the story. I've often said that to teams, tell your story. How do you, can you have any advice or tips for making the story very clear in this rather unusual season where perhaps it was more difficult to get teams together? There's a lot more piecemeal stuff going on. What kind of expectations do you have maybe for your teams in solving some of these problems? Any tips?
I think Mrs. G and I are both waiting for the other one to jump in to see who's going to answer this.
It's a rough one, right?
Well, either that or for Timmy to jump in. Do you have, or Timmy or Michael, do you guys have something?
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you have problems with, you know, meeting, or say you have a mask mandatory meeting, again, explain that in your story. It's an entire story of your year. So if you had problems, with meeting or something like that, explain that. If you didn't get to meet for the first couple months and instead had Zoom meetings with CAD designs, you still explain that. You share your story to the judges.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to get some different kinds of stories. We have a question too about whether an engineering notebook is required. Timmy, can you talk about that? I think that's what you started out saying is, you know,
yes. Yes. So yes, engineering notebooks are still required for awards, but it's the later on. So the portfolio gives the judges the first example of the team. And as Mrs. G said, it lets them be your advocate to the other judges when they go back in the big room of all the judges. After that,
but
online,
the online submission is limited to the portfolio.
Yes,
but I think when you started out to say that there's more to it than just the judge, right?
So
I just thought that I read stuff that said that if you were being evaluated for, say, the Think Award, they were going to want to see your entire notebook.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think perhaps some of the other awards have something like that. So you do need to have a notebook backup if they ask for more. And that's my understanding.
And even if the notebooks were not required this year, I would still make a notebook for one, a record of your season, and two, as I said before, to help in your testing, your designing, your building, just that you know what you did and you can go back to a previous design. Say you built, I don't know, a skeet shooter and it absolutely destroyed itself this year. Okay, so you want to go back to some other better ring shooter. Since you documented it in your notebook, you can then go back to that previous design.
Yeah, and that's a good place to end up because that's where we started, is the importance of the notebook and the different options that are available. And certainly with things changing this year, we're going to have to pay attention. Also wanted to make a note that because of remote judging being different in a lot of ways, we'll have to kind of keep up, keep watching. And I'm guilty of not being up to date on the latest myself if there was some further information put out. So you've got to kind of stick with that, watch the notifications that are coming out, read the blogs, kind of stay on top of that. And we will have another chat in the future once we've kind of been able to pin this down a little bit more. So I appreciate those of you that have joined us for this chat. I think we have time maybe to just address one more question if we have one. We started a little bit late. Are there any other burning questions out there? This is kind of your last opportunity here to, we have these folks have kindly given their time this evening. I mean, I have a couple questions, but would really rather answer questions of our audience out there. Please don't hesitate. There's been some contact information that's been shared, and we're going to be saving this, and it's something that you can go back and look at later, share with your team members that were not here, share with other teams that you may know, because I've talked to a couple of rookie teams who are just really trying to figure out, how to do this. And the more we can share the experiences that we have, the more it's going to help everyone, even if this year's portfolio / notebook looks a lot different from last year's, and our robots are going to look a lot different. We're still going to have some opportunities to learn and grow. So we do have a question about whether, and I think this one is for you, Coach Randy, if somebody has a suggestion, are you still in, you said beta test and we're kind of past that, but are you still taking suggestions for improvements?
Oh, absolutely. Because as I mentioned, a lot of the stuff that I'm looking at with the printout right now is still in development and I'm planned on for the next 2 weeks. There is a forums. So if you're actually on the website and you scroll down to the bottom, and I'm not screen sharing anymore, and that's okay. But if you're on the website and you scroll, okay, there you go. You scroll down to the bottom, you'll actually see this support forums link. Now, this is my home thing, and that actually doesn't bring me to the support forums. But here, let me just real quick. If I go out here and go into the support forums, this is community-based. So not only will I post out here, but other users will post out here if they have answers. So these support forums are out here, and one of the topic areas is specifically suggestions. There's also, once you sign up, there'll be emails, admin@RoboNotebook, and I get all those emails, and all of this ends up on a enhancement list that's out here on the website as well. So I quickly clicked inside the footer And here's a list of either things that I've come up with or other users have shared with me as far as what they would like to see on the website. And as you can see, they're going to keep me busy for the next several years.
Some great collaboration there. I think our final question is, and this is a great one to end on, if we have future questions for notebooks and portfolios, where can we go? And I know that you guys have shared that, Frogbots, you've shared your info email. We have a way to contact, Coach Randy through Robo Notebook.
Absolutely.
And also, I would, I'm going to use this as an opportunity to plug for all of you who are not making a habit of reading your email that your Mentor 1 and 2 get with notices of what's going on with FTC. And when we have things like these chats or town halls, that's a great opportunity to come and ask questions. All of the contact emails on the First Chesapeake website are people that you can go to. And I also want to throw in a pitch again for the FTC Advisory Committee, which they are your advocates for questions that come up to try to make FTC better this year. So lots and lots of different things that you guys can put on your list of places to go and things to do. And the FTC Advisory Committee is working on trying to put together a list of resources, which will include resources for Engineering Notebook for those of you that may have a lot more questions this year. Okay.
And one other suggestion I'd like to throw out there, is a subreddit specifically for FTC. Go out to reddit.com and find the FTC subreddit. And there's also a specific Discord for FTC. And both of those are huge, huge resources for brainstorming with other team members.
Yeah, and there is also the official forums. So those I might note are the unofficial forums, just conversations. Those are not sponsored by First Chesapeake, but we have the official forums as well. So you can kind of be overwhelmed by the number of channels that you have to ask those questions. And again, that's one of the things that the FTC Advisory Committee is trying to neck down for you to try to maybe check out some things and make it a little bit easier to find the answers that you need. Okay.
And you can also email Frogbots directly, and probably same thing for Randy's team. You could email us at info@frogbots.net and ask us your questions, and we'll get back to you and see what we can do.
Absolutely.
And thank you guys. Thank you for both of your teams for giving your time and offering to be a resource here this evening. This isn't the first time we've had Frogbots on. Sorry, I'm having a hard time with your name. Maybe I'll go back to your team number. Thank you again for your second time and helping out with the chat. If anyone else out there is interested in a topic, we're going to be scheduling some other topics throughout January and February. And anything from, scholarships to follow up to this chat on Engineering Notebook, maybe some technical things. If you have something you think would be a great chat, contact me, contact anybody on the First Chesapeake staff and say, hey, I'd like to do a chat and I have this great idea and we would love to talk to you. We are trying to work out a schedule through January, February, March for some more chats and some more ideas for sharing information. So for now, I think we're going to need to wrap up. We started a little late and we've kind of run a little bit late. But I want to thank you guys again, Team 4634 Frogbots. Timmy and Mrs. G for being here, and Team 16537 Logic Coyotes for being here. Randy and Michael for joining us today. And I would like to thank again our sponsor for today, which is Newport News Shipbuilding. We have a short video from them, so please stick around for the video and have a great day and stay in touch with us with your questions. Thanks again to everybody who had joined us today. All right, have a great evening.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Bye.